This is going to be one of our story time episodes, kind of like my first one. As most of us know, they have killed another person, and by they, I mean ICE. They've killed another person, another protester, a man, a white man, in Minneapolis. And as I said, I started this, one, to get the word out there, but also because it's rough hearing this every day. It's truly hard. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Because while there's so many reasons and so much more reason to be afraid, this is why we can't. This is why we still need to resist. And we still need to get in those streets. Because they're going to get worse before they get better. At the end of the day, you either win the resistance or you don't. So, a little about me. My dad was raised in Bogota, Colombia. And over there, it was primarily Catholic education, right? So he went to like a seminary school, it was taught by priests. My aunts went to a school taught by nuns. Now, my dad was bullied. He got bullied when he was a kid. And he told me, he was like, Vanessa, there was this one bully that I had. And, he would beat me up. And my mom would say, oh, I know that, you got beat up, but you turned the other cheek and you showed that you were the better child and that you were raised by better people. And so she would reward that. And he said, I really wish I would have hit that kid back. And I understand that I was being respectful to my mother and that I was showing that I was raised right. But you know what? It would have been nice to know that I could. And he's like, so I guess what I'm saying to you, Vanessa, is fight back when you need to fight back. Don't let them just take you in. So I was raised Jehovah's Witness. And what most people don't know is that the Jehovah's Witness love to have these little plays, right? And even the children, right? So it's kind of like, think about like Sunday school, right? So the Jehovah's Witness children would put this play together. And I would always want to be in it, not because I like church or any part of this, was because it was the only thing that wasn't boring. It was putting together these, little skits, right? And this one little girl was always in charge of picking. And she didn't pick me. And I found her in the bathroom that day at church and I said, why didn't you pick me? Because I wanted the criticism, right? Like, was it something I needed to change? And she said, because I don't like you. And I can. And I hit her in the face with my fist. Whoops. I looked at myself in the mirror, I fixed my hair, and I walked out like nothing had ever happened. I sat down, and it wasn't until I saw my mother doing this that I knew I was busted. So she took me home and she marched me into my father's room and said, do you know what your daughter did? She beat up a little girl in the bathroom because she wouldn't give her a part in a play. And I told him what happened, that I asked her. She was essentially just mean and hateful. And I hit her. And he said, atta girl. Atta girl. Guess what? That little girl never, ever mouthed off to me again. And I say that because part of this administration and part of why Democrats have had a hard time is I have such respect for Michelle Obama, but when they go low, we go high. Oh, that time doesn't exist anymore. I really wish, much like my grandmother thought, that when people go low, you go high, and it does something. It doesn't. It doesn't. And we are Americans. And one thing Americans know how to do is get dirty. We know how to get dirty. And that's essentially, what needs to happen here. And let me tell you why. A few weeks ago, one of my best friends had to actually drive through an ICE stop. And she is Hispanic, just like me. Not a daughter of an immigrant. Her parents were born here. But she definitely looks Hispanic. And she had no idea this was happening. She couldn't get anyone on the phone. She is pulled over in this ICE, whatever line that they take you. And she's watching them go car to car. And certain cars are pulled, others are taken to the side. Certain people were taken. And in that moment, my poor friend is like, I'm going to get taken. Thankfully, the ICE officer that came to her car didn't really bother with her. I think they had an agenda that day. They waved her on while they kind of just kept her there for a moment looking, didn't ask for ID, just moved her forward. So after that day, she avoided that drive for a minute because we could find, where they were happening. And one day, it was a bad day. She ended up going back that way. Sure enough, there was ice again. And she knew she was going to have to drive back through it to get home. There was no avoiding it. And she called me. And she said, well, I called my dad, and now I'm calling you because I'm going to have to go through that checkpoint. And if they take me, they'll take my phone. You won't know where my car is. You won't know where they have me. But I need you to know that if you don't hear from me, that's potentially where I am. And in that moment, all those little mechanisms of keeping safe and while being brave, it's this weird sort of kind of why I want to be an attorney in my mind. When things go bad, there's a plan. So the first thing I thought was, no. We can drop your car off. We can actually fly you into another city if that's the case. We'll just buy you a ticket. You can actually fly. We can get you home another way. We can put you on a train. We can leave your car. There is absolutely no reason for you to get through. And all of my self-defense mechanisms kicked in because my dad taught me to always have a plan, to be able to defend myself because the world isn't nice. It's filled with ugly people, and they need to know that you are of the strong. And so part of why I picked a career as a lawyer, being a 5'3" woman, something happens when you tell people you're an attorney. Even when you tell people, when I say I'm in law school, people take a wing back. When I told people I was a paralegal, they took a step back. Lawyers are basically, they are the legal version of, leg breakers for the mob. They're mercenaries, right? There's a sense of fear that comes with being an attorney. So in keeping with that, and in keeping with the fact that they are going to start kicking doors in, folks, they plan to go door to door, just like they did in Minneapolis. And if you don't believe me, start looking at what's going on in Minneapolis because doors are being kicked in. Not only that, there is this deranged report that apparently an insider leaked to the press that in Minnesota, that they had essentially told their ICE officers that they no longer needed a signed warrant by a judge. They essentially would show nothing, and that was their excuse for being able to be let in. No. I watch a lot of veterans now on social media. I have respect for our veterans. And one of them actually did a longer video on why it disturbed him about those door kicks. And he said, let me tell you something. As a veteran, when I was in Afghanistan, we did those door kicking. That was the most afraid. That was the most in danger. You don't know what's in that house. So again, in keeping with that, our homes are a castle, right? In this country, our homes are supposed to be a guaranteed safe space. So I encourage all of you to look up your local and statewide self-defense laws, because in the state of California, self-defense against a home intruder is governed by the state's version of the castle doctrine, king of the castle, which recognizes that a person's home is their place of ultimate safety. Under California law, if someone unlawfully and forcibly enters your home, the resident is presumed to have a reasonable fear of imminent death or great bodily injury, allowing the use of force, including deadly force, if it is necessary to stop that threat. Importantly, California does not require a person to retreat from their home before defending themselves. However, this protection is not unlimited. The intruder must pose an immediate threat. The force used must be reasonable under the circumstances, and the doctrine does not apply if the resident provoked the encounter, right? So if you tell someone, I'm going to kill you, bring them in their house, no, that doesn't count. No. So California allows people to defend themselves in their homes, but it still carefully weighs necessity, proportionality, and reasonableness. You know what else California allows? I don't know why people assume that in blue states people don't have guns. We're just not as dramatic. I mean, in Texas, I think they still put cannons on their lawns, for God's sake. But are you kidding? This is America. The Second Amendment, that's better than God in this country. And in blue states, people are armed. And they are armed in their homes specifically because of this law. Because if when you are asleep in your home and someone comes in, you have the right to kill them if that is what they are going to do. Or even if you think that's what they're going to do. Someone breaks your door down in the middle of the night, you don't think they're going to kill you? So it's time to come up with plan A, plan B, plan C. Because you don't know how they're going to come at you. Whether it's going to be that you're driving one day and you drive into something, you're coming up of a BART train and you walk into something, you're at home. Start making plans, folks.